The champagne glass almost slipped from my hand when I heard the words come out of his mouth. "I think Naomi and I need to go our separate ways now," Vincent said into the microphone. His voice steady and practiced. The restaurant went silent. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Everyone turned to look at me. We were supposed to be celebrating his promotion to senior vice president. His entire department was there. His boss, his colleagues, and me, the wife who had spent 3 years helping him prepare for this exact moment. He didn't whisper it privately. He didn't ask to talk later. He announced the end of our marriage like it was part of his acceptance speech. I stood there in my navy dress. The one he said made me look professional and supportive. My heels felt glued to the floor. My smile stayed frozen on my face. Vincent looked confident, almost relieved. Like he had been waiting for this moment. Like ending our marriage was just another item checked off his success list. People stared. Some looked shocked. Others looked uncomfortable. A few looked away quickly, like they couldn't bear to watch. But I noticed something else. A woman from his department, sitting 3 tables away, wasn't looking at me with surprise. She was looking at me with something that felt like guilt. That's when I understood. This wasn't sudden. This was planned. I did something that surprised everyone in that room. Clap. Once. 3 times. The sound cut through the silence like a knife. People jumped slightly. Vincent's confident smile faltered for just a second. I walked forward, my heels clicking on the polished floor. I reached him, stood on my toes and kissed his cheek. "Congratulations," I said loud enough for everyone to hear. "You earned this promotion." His shoulders relaxed. I could see relief wash over his face. He thought I was stunned. He thought I was too shocked to react. He thought I was going to make this easy for him. I smiled wider and squeezed his hand once before returning to my seat. The room slowly came back to life. People started talking again, but their voices were quieter now. Uncertain. They didn't know how to act after what they just witnessed. I picked up my water glass and took a slow sip. My hands were steady. My face remained calm. Inside, my brain was working at lightning speed. I thought about every late night I had stayed up editing his presentations. Every practice negotiation I had sat through. Every connection I had made for him at networking events. Every time I had pushed my own career aside so his could move forward faster. I thought about the woman 3 tables away who couldn't meet my eyes. And I realized something important. I wasn't heartbroken. I was alert. My name is Naomi Cross, and I am 34 years old. For 8 years I was married to Vincent Cross, a man who believed that success erased loyalty. I met him when we both worked at Stanton Industries, a major consulting firm in Chicago. Back then he was ambitious but uncertain. Smart but lacking confidence. He had ideas but struggled to present them. I was a project coordinator with a talent for organizing chaos and making people look good. My job was to support executives and I was excellent at it. Vincent noticed me first. He asked me to review a proposal he was working on. I rewrote half of it and it got approved. He asked for help again. And again. Eventually he asked me to dinner instead. We dated for 2 years before getting married. Those first years felt balanced. We were partners who supported each other's careers. But slowly something shifted. When Vincent got promoted to manager, I helped him prepare for every presentation. When he struggled with a difficult client, I researched solutions and wrote talking points. When he doubted himself before big meetings, I built up his confidence. I didn't mind at first. That's what partners do. But then my own opportunities started getting smaller. A promotion I wanted went to someone else. Projects I requested got reassigned. My boss suggested I might be stretched too thin, managing both my work and Vincent's needs. I told myself it was temporary. Once Vincent reached a certain level, things would balance out again. I was wrong. The promotion dinner continued around me like nothing had happened. Vincent moved through the room, shaking hands and accepting congratulations. He laughed louder than usual. His face looked lighter, like a weight had been lifted. People kept glancing at me, trying to figure out what they should say. Most avoided me completely. I sat alone at our table, pushing food around my plate. I wasn't hungry. My mind was racing too fast to eat. The woman from his department finally stood up. She walked toward the bathroom, moving quickly like she wanted to escape. I recognized her now. Her name was Simone Patterson. She had joined Vincent's team about 8 months ago. Fresh out of business school. 26 years old. Ambitious and eager to impress. Vincent had mentioned her a few times. Always professionally. Always casually. Simone had a great idea in the meeting today. Simone is really catching on quickly. Simone might join us for the Henderson pitch. I had never thought anything of it. Till now. I remembered something else. 3 weeks ago, Vincent had come home smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. When I asked, he said he had been at a team celebration and someone had hugged him goodbye. I believed him then. Now I replayed every late night, every weekend conference, every business trip in my head. The pieces started fitting together like a puzzle I didn't want to complete. Vincent returned to our table, still smiling. "Thank you for being so understanding," he said quietly. Understanding. Like I had agreed to this. Like we had discussed it privately and decided together. I nodded and said nothing. The drive home was the longest 30 minutes of my life. Vincent drove while talking about logistics like he was discussing a project plan. "We should keep this civil," he said. "No need for drama or lawyers fighting. We're both adults." I stared out the window at the passing streetlights. "I'll move my things out this weekend," he continued. "I already found a place downtown. 1 bedroom. Nothing fancy. Nothing fancy." He had already been looking for apartments. This had been planned for weeks, maybe months. "We can split things fairly," he added. "I don't want this to be complicated." Complicated. Our 8-year marriage was just a complication to simplify. "The house is in both our names, so we'll need to figure that out," he said. "But there's no rush. We can take our time." He kept using "we" like this was a joint decision. Like I had any say in what was happening. When we pulled into our driveway, I finally spoke. "I'm tired," I said. "I'm going to bed." He looked relieved that I wasn't making a scene. "That's probably best," he agreed. "We can talk more tomorrow when emotions aren't so high." Emotions. He thought I was emotional, unstable, unable to think clearly. I went to our bedroom, closed the door, and sat on the edge of the bed. Then I did something strange. I didn't cry. I opened my laptop and created a new folder. I named it Documentation. Then I started remembering everything. I woke up early the next morning with absolute clarity. Vincent was still asleep, sprawled across his side of the bed like he didn't have a care in the world. I got dressed quietly and went to my home office. I started going through files, emails, and documents from the past 3 years. My work with Vincent wasn't just casual help. It was substantial. I had co-written presentations that got him promoted. I had developed strategies he presented as his own. I had created entire project frameworks he used to win clients. I found emails where I sent him edited documents. Messages where I outlined approaches he later pitched in meetings. Notes from practice sessions where I coached him through negotiations. Everything was dated. Everything was saved. I had kept it all without even thinking about it. 3 years of proof that I wasn't just his supportive wife. I was his uncredited collaborator. Copied everything to a secure drive. Then I started organizing it chronologically. Vincent came into the office around 9, already dressed for the weekend in casual clothes. "I'm going to start packing today," he announced. "Get a head start." "That's fine," I replied calmly. He looked surprised by my tone. Maybe he expected tears or anger. "You're taking this really well," he said carefully. "What choice do I have?" Answered. "You've made your decision." He nodded, looking relieved again. "I'm glad you understand. This is just growth. People change. It's nobody's fault. Growth." He called abandoning our marriage growth. I turned back to my computer. I need to finish some work, I said. He left the room and I kept organizing my files. By Monday morning, Vincent had moved most of his clothes to his new apartment downtown. I went to work at Stanton Industries like nothing had happened. I sat at my desk. I answered emails. I attended meetings. But I also did something else. I scheduled a consultation with Amanda Torres, a divorce lawyer my friend had recommended years ago during her own separation. Amanda's office was modern and efficient. She was in her 40s, sharp-eyed and direct. I explained the situation calmly. The announcement at dinner. The planned separation. Vincent's new apartment. Then I showed her my documentation. Amanda went through it slowly, her expression changing from professional to interested. These materials, she said, tapping a folder, were used for his promotion? Yes, I confirmed. The Henderson pitch that got him promoted to senior VP. I developed the strategy framework. I edited every slide. I coached him through the practice presentations. And you're listed anywhere as a contributor? She asked. I showed her emails where Vincent forwarded my work to his boss with comments like, "Here's the approach we discussed, and our team's strategy for Henderson." Team. Never just him. Amanda sat back in her chair. "This is more complicated than a standard divorce," she said. "If your intellectual contributions materially affected his compensation and position, that changes the asset calculation." She paused, then added, "There's also the question of workplace relationships. Does Stanton Industries have policies about undisclosed relationships between supervisors and subordinates?" I thought about Simone Patterson. "They have strict policies," I said. "Everything has to be disclosed to HR." Amanda made notes. "Let me research some things," she said. "Don't confront him yet. Keep documenting everything." I left her office feeling something I hadn't felt since the restaurant. Control. Vincent called me that Tuesday evening. His voice tight with stress. "Did you tell anyone at Stanton about the separation?" he asked. "No," I said honestly. "Why?" "My performance review got postponed," he explained. "They said they need to verify some details about my recent promotion." I stayed silent. "It's probably just routine," he continued, but he didn't sound convinced. "Corporate does audits sometimes. Nothing to worry about." "I'm sure it's fine," I replied calmly. After we hung up, I looked at the email I had sent to Stanton's HR department that morning. It wasn't a complaint. It wasn't an accusation. It was simply a request to clarify my contributions to several projects that had been attributed solely to Vincent's team. I included documentation. I included timelines. I included emails. I didn't mention the separation. I didn't mention Simone. I didn't mention anything personal. I just asked for accurate credit for my work. That's what made it powerful. It wasn't emotional. It was factual. The HR representative had responded within 2 hours, thanking me for bringing the documentation to their attention and noting that they would review it as part of standard compliance procedures. Corporate policies required accurate attribution of work, especially when that work influenced promotions and compensation. By asking for credit, I had triggered an audit. Vincent had no idea. The next week, things started changing quickly. Vincent's previously scheduled promotion celebration at the office was quietly cancelled. His boss stopped responding to his messages as quickly as before. Meanwhile, executives I had worked with started reaching out to me directly. "I didn't realize how involved you were in the Henderson pitch," one director said during a hallway conversation. "Your strategy framework was brilliant." Another executive invited me to coffee. "We're starting a new consulting division," she explained. "We need someone who understands both project coordination and strategy development. Would you be interested?" I listened carefully, took notes, asked questions, but I didn't commit to anything yet. Vincent called me Friday afternoon, sounding frustrated. "Something weird is happening at work," he said. "People keep asking me about project attribution. Who worked on what? Who developed which strategies? That does sound weird," I agreed neutrally. They're asking about the Henderson pitch specifically, he continued. Asking who was on the team. Who created the frameworks. I stayed quiet. I told them it was a team effort, he said. That's technically true, right? I mean, you helped, but it was my presentation. Your presentation. My strategy. His credit. I'm sure they're just being thorough, I said. After the call ended, I received an email from Stanton's HR director requesting a formal meeting to discuss my contributions to recent projects. I confirmed the meeting for Monday morning. Everything was moving exactly as Amanda had predicted. The HR meeting lasted 2 hours. They asked detailed questions about my work. They wanted timelines. They wanted to see original documents. They wanted to understand exactly what I had created versus what Vincent's team had developed. I had everything organized. Every email. Every draft with tracked changes. Every strategy document I had written. The HR director's expression grew more serious as the meeting continued. Ms. Cross, she said carefully, why didn't you request formal credit for these contributions when they were made? My husband asked me to keep my involvement quiet, I explained. He said it would look better if the work came from his team. He said it would help his career advancement. And you agreed to this arrangement, she asked. I thought I was supporting my partner, I replied. I didn't realize there were compliance implications. That was the key phrase. Compliance implications. Because Stanton Industries had strict rules about work attribution, intellectual property, and promotion eligibility. Those rules existed to prevent exactly what Vincent had done, taking credit for work he didn't do in order to advance his career. We'll need to review this further, the HR director said. This may affect the assessment of Mr. Cross's recent promotion. I understand, I said calmly. As I left the meeting, I passed Vincent in the hallway. He was heading into his own meeting with HR. He looked stressed. His confident smile from the promotion dinner was completely gone. What's going on? He asked urgently. Why are they asking so many questions? I honestly don't know, I said. They asked me about projects I worked on. I just told them the truth. He paled slightly. What truth? The truth about what I created, I replied simply. Then I walked away. Vincent showed up at the house that evening, angrier than I had ever seen him. You filed a complaint against me, he accused. I didn't file a complaint, I corrected calmly. I requested accurate credit for my work. That's the same thing, he snapped. No, it's not, I replied. A complaint would be about you. This is about me getting recognition for what I created. He paced the living room, running his hands through his hair. Do you have any idea what you've done? He demanded. They're reviewing my promotion. They're questioning whether I deserved it. This could ruin everything. You ruined everything when you announced our separation at your promotion dinner, I said quietly. He stopped pacing. That's what this is about. Revenge. This is about truth, I corrected. I supported your career for years. I created work that got you promoted. I deserved credit for that work. This has nothing to do with our marriage. Everything has to do with our marriage, he shot back. You're trying to sabotage me because I left. You didn't leave, I replied. You announced in front of your entire department that you were leaving. There's a difference. He stared at me like he was seeing someone he didn't recognize. I never thought you'd do this, he said quietly. I'm not doing anything, I explained calmly. I'm just no longer hiding what I did. I'm no longer pretending your success was only yours. He left without another word. That night I received a message from Amanda. Stanton's legal team contacted me. It read, "This is moving faster than I expected. Be prepared." I was prepared. I had been preparing since the moment Vincent said "separate ways" into that microphone. The next 2 weeks were a blur of meetings, documents, and carefully worded emails. Stanton's compliance department launched a full review of Vincent's recent projects and his promotion. They interviewed team members. They examined documentation. They reviewed emails and presentations. Everything I had submitted was verified and confirmed. Meanwhile, another issue emerged. Someone had reported an undisclosed relationship between Vincent and Simone Patterson. HR investigated. They found dinner receipts, hotel reservations for conferences where they shared rooms, text messages that were definitely not professional. Stanton's policy was clear. Supervisors had to disclose any romantic relationships with their direct reports immediately. Failure to disclose was a serious violation. Vincent hadn't disclosed anything. Simone was abruptly transferred to a different department. Vincent received a formal written warning. His promotion review was officially suspended pending the outcome of multiple investigations. I watched it all unfold from a distance. I didn't need to push. The system was working exactly as it should. Vincent called me repeatedly. His messages went from angry to desperate to pleading. "We can fix this," he said in one voicemail. "I'll tell them everything was a misunderstanding. We can say we had an arrangement where you wanted to help but didn't need credit." "That would be lying," I replied when I finally called him back. "Please," he begged. "You don't understand what's at stake here." "I understand perfectly," I said. "You built your success on work you didn't do and relationships you didn't disclose. Now there are consequences." "I thought you loved me," he said quietly. "I did," I replied. "That's why I spent 3 years building your career instead of my own." Hung up. 4 weeks after Vincent announced our separation, Stanton Industries made their decision. His promotion to senior vice president was revoked. He was moved back to his previous position as director with a significant pay reduction. The official reason was irregularities in work attribution and undisclosed conflicts of interest. Vincent was devastated. He called me crying. "They took everything," he said. "The title, the salary, the respect, all of it gone." "Not everything," I corrected. "You still have your director position. That's more than many people have." "You did this," he accused through his tears. "You destroyed me." "I corrected the record," I replied calmly. "The destruction was your own doing." He hung up on me. That same afternoon, I received an offer from Stanton Industries. They wanted to create a new position specifically for me. Senior Strategy Consultant. It came with a significant raise, a team of my own, and credit for all future work. The executive who had approached me about the consulting division explained, "We realized we've been underutilizing your talents for years. This is our way of correcting that mistake." I accepted the position immediately. 2 months after his promotion dinner, Vincent had lost his advancement and his reputation. I had gained recognition, a better position, and my independence. The divorce proceedings moved forward smoothly. Vincent couldn't afford to fight. He agreed to everything Amanda proposed. The irony wasn't lost on me. He had ended our marriage thinking he was upgrading his life. Instead, he had handed me the freedom to build something better. 6 months after that terrible promotion dinner, I walked into my first day as senior strategy consultant. I had my own office, my own team, my own projects that carried my name. People who had previously overlooked me now listened when I spoke. Ideas I suggested were implemented. Strategies I developed were credited properly. Everything I had created in the shadows for Vincent, I now created in the light for myself. Vincent, meanwhile, struggled in his reduced position. His credibility was damaged. Colleagues who had celebrated with him that night now avoided him. The relationship with Simone had ended badly. He moved to a smaller apartment when he couldn't afford the downtown place anymore. His social media posts, once full of confident success photos, became sparse and forced. I heard through office gossip that he had applied for positions at other companies, but word had spread about the Stanton situation. No one wanted to hire someone with compliance violations on their record. I felt no satisfaction in his downfall, only relief that I was no longer attached to it. Amanda finalized our divorce in record time. Vincent signed everything without reading it carefully. He was too defeated to fight. Kept the house. I kept my retirement accounts. I kept everything I had brought into the marriage plus a fair share of what we had built together. Vincent kept his damaged reputation and the lesson he should have learned years ago. Never underestimate the person who made you look good. 1 year after Vincent announced our separation, I received an invitation to speak at a women's leadership conference. The topic was, building your career while supporting others, finding the balance. I accepted immediately. Standing on that stage, looking out at hundreds of women who had supported partners, children, parents, and colleagues while putting their own dreams on hold, I felt something powerful. Not anger. Not bitterness. Purpose. I told my story carefully. I didn't bash Vincent. I didn't play the victim. I talked about documentation. About knowing your worth. About the importance of getting credit for your work. I talked about the moment at that promotion dinner when I realized I had a choice. Break down or build up. He thought congratulating him would break me, I said. But it freed me. Because in that moment, I stopped caring about his opinion of me and started caring about the truth. The audience gave me a standing ovation. Afterward, dozens of women approached me. They shared their own stories of being undervalued, overlooked, and underestimated. Many asked for advice. Some asked if I did consulting. That's when I realized something important. My experience wasn't unique. It was common. And it was fixable. 18 months after the separation, I left Stanton Industries to start my own consulting firm. Cross Strategies opened with 3 clients. All women-owned businesses looking for strategic planning support. Within 6 months I had 15 clients. Within a year, I had expanded to a team of 5 consultants. My business focused on helping professionals get proper credit for their work, especially women who had been supporting others while building their own careers. I specialized in documentation strategies, workplace advocacy, and career advancement planning. The irony was perfect. Vincent's betrayal had led me to create something more valuable than anything we had built together. I ran into him once, at a professional conference. He looked older, tired. He had taken a job at a smaller firm doing the same work he did before his Stanton promotion. "You look good," he said awkwardly. "I heard about your consulting firm. Congratulations." "Thank you," I replied politely. He hesitated, then asked, "Do you ever think about what could have been different? If I had handled things better?" I considered the question carefully. "I think everything happened exactly as it should," I finally said. "You taught me an important lesson about my own value. I'm grateful for that." He looked surprised. "Grateful. Grateful," I confirmed. "Because staying with you meant staying small. Leaving meant becoming who I was always capable of being." He had no response to that. We said polite goodbyes and went separate directions. I never saw him again. 2 years after that promotion dinner, I was invited back to Stanton Industries as a keynote speaker for their annual leadership summit. I stood in the same building where I had spent years supporting Vincent's career while minimizing my own. But this time I wasn't in the audience. I was on the stage. The presentation room was packed. Executives, directors, managers, all there to hear me speak about strategic planning and career development. I saw familiar faces in the crowd. People who had watched Vincent announce our separation. People who had once overlooked my contributions. Now they took notes on what I said. After the presentation, the CEO herself approached me. "We made a mistake letting you go," she said directly. "I want you to know we've implemented new policies about work attribution because of your situation. You created positive change here." I appreciated the acknowledgement, even if it came too late for my own time at Stanton. "I hope it helps other people," I replied sincerely. "It already has," she assured me. That evening I received a message from Simone Patterson. "I saw your presentation today," she wrote. "I wanted to apologize for my role in what happened. I was young and stupid and believed his version of your marriage. I'm sorry." I responded simply, "Thank you for the apology. I hope you've learned to build your own success rather than borrowing someone else's." She replied with a simple "I have." That was enough closure for me. 3 years after Vincent ended our marriage at his promotion dinner, I published a book, Building Your Own Table: How to Claim Credit and Create Success on Your Terms, became a bestseller in the business category. It wasn't a revenge story. It wasn't a tell-all about Vincent. It was a practical guide for professionals who had been supporting others while neglecting their own advancement. I included strategies for documentation, negotiation, and boundary setting. I shared stories from my consulting clients. I provided templates and frameworks. The book resonated because it wasn't about anger. It was about empowerment. Readers told me it changed their careers. Women who had been invisible suddenly became visible. People who had been overlooked started getting promoted. I did a book tour speaking in 15 cities. At every event, someone shared a story similar to mine. The common thread was always the same. They had put someone else first for so long that they forgot they deserved to be first too. During a Q&A in Boston, someone asked, "Do you regret your marriage to Vincent?" I thought about it carefully before answering. "I regret that he didn't value partnership the way I did," I said honestly. "But I don't regret the experience. It taught me what I'm capable of when I stopped diminishing myself for someone else's comfort." The audience applauded. That answer became a quote that spread across social media. Vincent had wanted to separate from me because he thought he had outgrown our marriage. Instead, he had freed me to outgrow everything that had been holding me back. 5 years after that promotion dinner, Cross Strategies had grown to 20 employees and offices in 3 cities. We specialized in workplace advocacy, strategic consulting, and career development for professionals who had been undervalued. My team was diverse, talented, and committed to our mission, ensuring everyone got credit for their work. We consulted with corporations about attribution policies. We coached individuals through career transitions. We mediated workplace disputes about credit and recognition. The business was thriving beyond anything I had imagined that night when Vincent announced our separation. I was invited to speak at conferences worldwide. I served on advisory boards. I mentored dozens of emerging professionals. My personal life had evolved too. I dated occasionally but wasn't looking for a relationship. I had learned to be complete on my own. One evening, while reviewing quarterly reports in my office, my assistant brought in a letter that had been delivered by courier. It was from Vincent. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won. The letter was handwritten, several pages long. He apologized for everything. For taking credit for my work. For the public humiliation. For underestimating me. For treating our marriage like a business transaction. He wrote about his struggles after the separation. The professional setbacks. The personal failures. The loneliness. He wrote that seeing my success made him realize what he had lost. He wrote that he hoped somehow I could forgive him. I read the letter twice, then carefully filed it away. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, but because there was nothing left to say. He had written that letter for himself, seeking absolution. I didn't need to give it to him. I had already moved on. 7 years after Vincent announced our separation at his promotion dinner, I was featured on the cover of Business Quarterly magazine. The headline read, "How Naomi Cross Built an Empire After Being Written Out of Her Own Story." The article detailed my journey from overlooked project coordinator to successful business owner. It discussed the Stanton situation carefully but fairly. When the journalist asked about Vincent, I kept my answer brief. "He made a choice that night that freed both of us," I said. "I chose to use that freedom to build something meaningful. He chose differently." The article went viral. It sparked conversations about workplace credit, gender dynamics, and the invisible labor that supports visible success. I received thousands of messages from people sharing their own stories of being undervalued and underestimated. Many asked how I had stayed so calm during the separation, how I hadn't fallen apart when Vincent announced it publicly. The truth was simple. I had recognized an ending as a beginning. When he said "separate ways" into that microphone, He thought he was closing a chapter. He had no idea he was opening one. Vincent never publicly commented on the article. But I heard through mutual contacts that he had saved a copy. I hoped he learned something from it. But whether he did or didn't was no longer my concern. 10 years after that promotion dinner, I sat in my corner office overlooking the city. Cross Strategies had become one of the most respected consulting firms in the country. We had 75 employees, offices in 8 cities, and clients ranging from startups to Fortune 500 companies. I was 44 years old, successful, independent, content. The phone rang. My assistant's voice came through the speaker. "Miss Cross, there's a Vincent Cross on line 2. He says it's personal. Should I tell him you're unavailable?" I hadn't heard from Vincent in years. Not since that letter 5 years ago. I almost said yes, tell him I'm unavailable. But something made me curious. "I'll take it," I said. Picked up the phone. "Hello, Vincent." His voice sounded older, weathered. "Naomi. Thank you for taking my call. I wasn't sure you would." "I almost didn't," I admitted. "What can I do for you?" He was silent for a moment, then spoke carefully. "I'm calling because I wanted you to hear it from me first. I'm getting married next month." Felt nothing. No jealousy. No anger. Not even curiosity. "Congratulations," I said sincerely. "She's different from..." He started then stopped. "I've learned a lot since us." "I'm glad," I replied. And I meant it. "I saw your company made the Inc. 5000 list," he continued. "You built something incredible." "I did," I agreed simply. Another pause. "I'm sorry it took losing you for me to understand what partnership actually means," he said quietly. "I appreciate the apology," I replied. "I hope you treat your next marriage better than you treated ours." "I will," he promised. We said polite goodbyes and hung up. I sat there for a moment, thinking about that promotion dinner 10 years ago. The humiliation I felt. The uncertainty. The fear. And then the clarity. The strategy. The execution. Vincent thought announcing our separation was his victory moment. Instead, it became mine. 12 years after Vincent's announcement, I received an invitation to speak at Harvard Business School. The course was Leadership and Strategic Decision-Making. I was invited to discuss my career journey and the founding of Cross Strategies. Standing in that prestigious lecture hall, I looked at the faces of future business leaders and felt the weight of responsibility. These students would go on to run companies, manage teams, and make decisions that affected thousands of people. I wanted them to understand something crucial. The moment that changed my career, I told them, wasn't a promotion or an award. It was the moment my husband publicly ended our marriage after I spent 3 years building his career. The room was silent. I could have broken down. I could have played the victim. I could have sought revenge. Pause. Instead, I documented everything I had created. Asked for credit for my work. I let the truth speak for itself. I explained the importance of attribution, documentation, and professional boundaries. I discussed the difference between supporting someone and erasing yourself. I talked about the power of staying calm in a crisis and letting systems work the way they're designed to work. After the lecture, a young woman approached me. "My boyfriend wants me to help with his startup," she said nervously. "He says once it succeeds, we'll be partners. But right now he needs me to work without salary or title. What should I do?" I looked at her carefully. "Get it in writing," I said. "Partnership means equal credit, equal risk, and equal reward. If he won't give you that now, he won't give it to you later." She nodded, understanding. That conversation reminded me why I did this work. Why I told my story again and again. Because Vincent wasn't unique. The pattern was common. And breaking that pattern required people like me to speak up. 15 years after Vincent announced our separation, I attended a charity gala in Chicago. Cross Strategies was a major sponsor. I was seated at the head table with other business leaders and philanthropists. During cocktail hour I saw him across the room. Vincent, now 59 years old, was there with his wife. They looked comfortable together. Happy even. Our eyes met briefly. He nodded politely. I nodded back. We didn't approach each other. There was no need. Later, as I was leaving, his wife stopped me in the lobby. "Miss Cross," she said, introducing herself. "I wanted to meet you. I'm Vincent's wife, Rebecca." I shook her hand, curious about what would come next. "Vincent has told me about your marriage," she continued. "About what he did and how you handled it. I wanted to thank you." I was surprised. "Thank me? You taught him how to be a better partner," she explained. "He's a completely different person now. He makes sure I get credit for my work. He supports my career. He's thoughtful about partnership in a way he wasn't before." She paused, then added, "I'm sorry it cost you a marriage to teach him that lesson. But I'm grateful for it." I didn't know what to say. "I'm glad he learned," I finally replied. "I hope your marriage is built on mutual respect." "It is," she assured me. "Because of what you went through." After she left, I thought about that conversation all the way home. Vincent had learned from our divorce. He had become better because of it. That wasn't my goal, but it was a satisfying side effect. I had transformed my pain into a business that helped thousands of people. He had transformed his failure into becoming a better partner. In a strange way, we had both succeeded. Just not together. 20 years after that promotion dinner, I announced my retirement from active consulting. Cross Strategies would continue under new leadership, a team of brilliant strategists I had mentored over the years. I was 54 years old, wealthy beyond my earlier dreams, respected in my industry, content with my life. My retirement announcement sparked dozens of interviews and retrospectives about my career. Every interviewer asked the same question in different ways. "How do you feel about what Vincent did now, 20 years later?" My answer evolved each time, but the core remained the same. "He gave me a gift that night," I would say. "He showed me exactly who he was and freed me to become exactly who I could be." I meant it. Without that public humiliation, I might have stayed comfortable. I might have continued supporting his career while neglecting my own. I might have convinced myself that partnership meant sacrifice instead of equality. His betrayal forced me to choose myself. That choice changed everything. At my retirement party, surrounded by employees, clients, friends, and the family I had built through my work, I gave one final speech. "I started this company because someone once made me invisible," I said. "I built it so that no one else would have to accept being invisible as the price of supporting someone they love." The applause was thunderous. Later, alone in my office, I looked at the framed magazine cover from years ago. Next to it was a photo from my first day at Stanton Industries, young and uncertain. And next to that was my current business card, Naomi Cross, founder and CEO, Cross Strategies. 3 versions of myself, each one necessary to become the next. Vincent thought he was trading up when he announced our separation. He didn't realize he was setting me free. 25 years after Vincent's announcement, I wrote a second book. This one wasn't about business strategy. It was a memoir. Separate Ways. How an Ending Became a Beginning, told the complete story for the first time. I included details I had never shared publicly. Planning. The strategy. The moments of doubt. The systematic documentation. But I also included something unexpected. Gratitude. Gratitude for the experience that pushed me to value myself. Gratitude for the freedom his betrayal had given me. Gratitude for the clarity that came from hitting rock bottom. The book's final chapter was called The Real Promotion. In it I wrote, 25 years ago, my husband announced our separation at his promotion dinner. He thought he was celebrating his rise and my exit. What he didn't understand was that he was announcing my promotion, from supporting role to leading lady in my own story. I congratulated him that night because I genuinely was grateful, not for the marriage ending but for the clarity it provided. He showed me exactly what I deserved, Someone who valued my contributions, respected my work, and celebrated my success. I found that person eventually. She was me. The book became required reading in several business schools and women's leadership programs. Vincent sent me a signed copy with a simple note. "You were always meant for this. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it." I appreciated the gesture, but I didn't need his validation anymore. I had spent 8 years seeking his approval, 3 years building his career, and 25 years building my own. The math was clear. The best investment I ever made was in myself. The story that started with a devastating announcement at a promotion dinner ended with me promoting myself to the life I always deserved. And that, I realized, was the perfect ending.